Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Road Ahead Talk Show powered by Jio Events and knowledge partnered by Sciative V Price Right. I am Vijeta Soni and I am so honored and so excited to introduce you to a wonderful guest today. He is none other than the founder of the Bohri Kitchen. So if you are from Mumbai and or if you read a lot about kitchens and restaurant industry, then I'm pretty sure you are aware about this very famous restaurant called the Bohri Kitchen in Mumbai. It has various cloud chains as well. So please make sure that you're ordering from there. But more than that, it is very important to learn how the founder of Bohri Kitchen, Munaf Kapadia, he left his Google job and he started Bohri Kitchen. What inspired him? What kind of curious soul he is? How did he start his journey? Who were the mentors for him during his journey? And then today he's also the founder of this company called M2O Consulting, where he supports and helps restaurants to not just think of themselves as a food industry companies, but look at themselves as more of a e-com company. So let's learn a lot from Munaf Kapadia through his experiences and his journey over a period of time. Wow, Munaf, what an amazing journey you have had. A wonderful profile. Did your MBA, went to Google, the most aspiring company to get into for any fresher, and then quit that, started to make samosas, your own restaurant. Brilliant. And then worked in different other logos as well. Your journey has been very beautiful. Pretty
Thank you.
inspiring for many people.
Thank you so much,
Uh,
Vijata.
And I'm pretty sure, Manaf, things would not have been so rosy as it looks right now, because every entrepreneur, every successful person has had a beautiful journey, a lot of learnings. I would love to learn कि आपका जर्नी शुरू कहाँ से हुआ, ये सीड कहाँ से आया कि let's make something of your own. So tell me about Munaf. You can go as deep as your bachpan as well. Talk about your childhood. How did you go about it? Tell me about it.
First of all, thanks for having me, Vijata, and thank you for the kind introduction. Um, so, Technically, the first time I started something, I started an actual business venture, was while I was at Google. I had a lot of free time on the weekends,
Mhm.
and I would keep experimenting with different ideas. And my first, I think, proper business idea was starting a bumper sticker website called stickitandgo.com, which was it was born out of just being in a lot of traffic jams and looking ahead, and I would see these car bumpers, which were just so boring to look at. And I was like, I wish somebody would employ their own creativity and individuality to express something which would hopefully be funny and original on those
Mm.
car bumpers. I need to give them that, opportunity. So I started a bumper sticker website, but I really did it because I wanted to learn how to set up a website on Shopify. I wanted to learn the basics of registering a domain, logistics, working with partners, designers, printing stuff, packaging, positioning, just like fun stuff. It was an attempt to learn how to do a few of these things by actually doing it. And that is how that first idea was born.
Mm.
Um, but I think somewhere this itch to constantly solve things or take ideas to a logical conclusion, it's been with me forever. It was with me in my MBA days when I realized that my mom makes really good homemade chocolates. So I said, let's build a business out of it called Cocoa Concoctions.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah. And I put up posters across my MBA college saying that my mom's selling these chocolates, please buy them. I convinced the cafeteria guy I'll give him some margins, to stock these chocolates. Similarly, when I was working on projects in college and school, I was constantly, I think, approaching any idea, any problem I had as, hey, let me try to solve it. Let me try to
Mm.
work on this. And the goal was never to succeed,
Mm.
right? The goal was never that, hey, I think I'm going to build a next $1 million business or I'm going to sell so many chocolates. The goal was
Mm.
always, let me take something from zero to one. Let me take it
Yep.
to a logical conclusion. And that
Mhm.
itself is thoroughly entertaining.
Mm.
because if I do that, I will learn so much, and one day I will do something which is a 1 to 100, and
Mm.
that's where I'll make my money. So it
Mm.
wasn't necessarily done from a point of view of making money. Sometimes I used to just do things because it felt like it would be fun to do it. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. So
A
that's
lot of
somewhere,
curious mind in you.
yeah,
A
yeah.
lot of
There's
curiosity.
there's always been a lot of curiosity. Now, where this curiosity was born, what happened to me in my childhood that made me such a curious cat, I don't know. Was it all the computer games I played? All the fantasy fiction I read? I have no idea.
See, one is about curiosity, and the other is about taking that risk, taking the plunge. Because many a times, ideas, I mean, ideas are everywhere. I mean, you look around you and you have ideas around you, right? It is also very important to take that plunge.
Hmm.
Try to build something around that idea. That is where often the gap starts happening. People think but may not do. So,
Yes.
how do you think people can bridge that gap where you are not just getting an idea but trying to do something around it? How does that happen?
No, that's a great question. In fact, I talk about this a lot in my book, and
Mhm.
and one of the things I've written in there is don't fall in love with the idea. All right, fall in love with the idea of entrepreneurship.
Mm.
So, like you said, that there could be maybe exactly what you are thinking of doing with something somebody else has already done. But that should not discourage you from doing it.
Mm.
Sometimes just do things because you kind of want to go through the process of doing it and taking it to a logical conclusion. That's usually more powerful. The journey is more powerful than the destination most of the times. And like I'll give you a real life example. Somewhere during my MBA days, I was having one of my first quarter life crisis.
Mm.
Right?
Quarter life crisis.
Yeah. Where I was lacking purpose. I was confused. Everyone around me in my class knew exactly what career paths they wanted to take, and I was like, I don't know what I want to do. Do I want to do advertising? Do I want to do marketing? So on and so forth. So I was very confused. So one day I ran away from home. Literally, I didn't tell my parents, and I found myself going to Gurgaon and attending an entrepreneurship camp of sorts. It was called the Coalition. It was a 2 day camp, and it was positioned as something for anyone who's in the creative field who's trying to figure out what they want to do in life. Come attend this. There are a lot of cool speakers. Listen to them, and maybe you'll get something out of it. I got
Mm.
almost nothing out of it.
Mm.
I met some really cool people though. That was
Mm.
fun, and there was one interaction I had out there, which actually I think might have helped me get out of that quarter life crisis, where they were giving us attendees an option to speak to a mentor for 1 hour. Okay, so
Okay.
various people from the industry had come in, and we could
Mm.
block a slot with them for like half an hour, not 1 hour, and talk to them about whatever we wanted. And this is
Mm.
me at a very young age, so I'm like, wow, this is a opportunity of a lifetime. There was an investment banker out there, like a partner from some big VC. Even though I
Mm.
knew nothing about equity, investing or VCs or anything, but I was like, it must be a
Mm.
big deal. Uh,
Mm.
and I went to this gentleman with a piece of paper, and on that paper, I had put down 4 ideas.
Okay.
Okay, idea number one was bookmysale.com, which was a marketplace for sailing because I'm a sailor. And I was like,
Mm.
there has to be an opportunity out there for people to be able to book a sailboat and, go sailing in Bombay. All
Mm.
right. Opportunity number two was ticketandgo.com. Opportunity number three was the Bohri kitchen, which is the food business I eventually started.
Mm.
And opportunity number four was this very complicated technology idea called social currency, which I won't bore your audience with.
Okay.
I went to this gentleman. I'm like, sir, what should I do? Like you tell me because I'm confused out of my mind. And I was prepared with like counter answers. I was expecting him to ask me things like what, like pursue the idea which has the best TAM, the largest
Mm.
market,
The
pursue the
timestamp.
idea which has the best margin, something, something.
Mm.
And he simply told me, dude, like at this stage in your life, just do whatever is the easiest to do.
Mm.
Don't choose an idea because you think that idea has the most potential. This is the
Mm.
first time you're ever going to do anything in your life, which is like a business. So
Mm.
don't do it for the business, do it for
Mm.
the journey.
Very interesting.
And then he said, "What do you think is the simplest to do?" And I said, "I think stickitandgo.com, right? Like all I have to do is find a printer who will print designs given to me by 10 designers who are friends of mine. All I have to do is use Shopify and figure out how to create an e-commerce portal
Hmm.
and go through that process." So he's like,
Hmm.
"Do that, and I promise you that that will give you a little more confidence to then pursue the next idea." And then the idea after that. And I don't even remember who that person was who I met, but I'm
Hmm.
literally, that's exactly what I'm doing today in my life. So yeah, so Stick It and
So
Go
it is.
lasted all of 3 months. I spent 20,000 rupees on it. I made 5,000 rupees, but it gave me the confidence to build the Bohri kitchen, and the Bohri kitchen has given me the confidence to build my current venture, which is M2O Consulting.
Interesting, because when you talk about, and this mentor gave you a very interesting advice. It's about failing easy, I mean failing fast and then learning from it, and therefore doing something easy. Number one, it does not fear you from anything. You know that you will be able to do it, but at the same time you know that the first time whenever you do anything, it may, I mean the probability of getting failed, or you
Yeah,
realizing ki this idea may not be really great, happens very fast, very fast. It happens to many entrepreneurs. So very interesting advice that this mentor gave you. I'm pretty sure this will be an advice which will be helpful for many people. So don't fear away from trying out anything. Whatever is the simplest which you feel can happen, something as simple as my mom makes chocolates, right? Let's try to see how can we create a market for it, right? So
absolutely.
try that out. It's going to give you a lot of learnings. So this is something which you did in your MBA. Then Google, right? Google worked very well for you. There are people who can do a lot of stuff for their job, right? You worked in Google, but still that
Hmm.
entrepreneurial bug in you was quite strong. So tell
Yeah.
us about how did your work happen in Google? What were you doing there, and still how were you were like smitten by these bugs again and again of
No,
entrepreneurship?
no, absolutely, absolutely. And I'll also correct my chronology over there. So I went to the coalition somewhere while I was at Google itself. So I found myself in a situation. I remember that I was bored of the job I was doing. So while I was in love with the company, like this is the dream company to work with and so on and so forth, but 3 years into it, I was bored of what I did every day. Like it barely took half my time. And I was lacking purpose and I was very confused about what to do in life. And that's when I went to the coalition. Now, but what did I do at Google to answer your question?
Mm.
Um, I was okay. So to make this a little more interesting, my
Okay.
first job actually wasn't Google. It was Wrigley's. Okay, so post my MBA at Narsi Monji, I was hired. My placement was for this beautiful company, the Mars Group, which owned a brand called Wrigley's Chewing Gum.
Yes.
And they basically hired me as one of four management trainees across the country. Beautiful role for a fresher, amazing money, fantastic, career path, become a management trainee, become an area sales manager, and then grow at a very young age in an
Mm.
FMCG company, one of the leading ones in the country.
Mm.
So I got excited. First time out of my house, they sent me to rural Mysore. I sat on the bike with Linga Raju, who was the regional sales manager. He
Mm.
took me from store to learn how do you sell chewing gum, uh, and beautiful insights and so on and so forth. But I think the most powerful insight I had is, hey, I don't enjoy selling gum. There's something I'm not being able to connect what I'm passionate about with this. The money might be great, the travel might be great. I might be learning a lot. I might be growing up as an individual, might be becoming an adult, through this process. But at the
Mm.
end of the day, my job is to sell chewing gum.
Mm.
And that wasn't doing it for me. So I got an opportunity to work at Google at half the salary. And I remember I made a presentation to my father. I made a PPT
Mm.
explaining to him that this is why I'm making this decision because I knew what he would say. He would say that Munaf, your very
You
first
made a
job,
PPT for your father.
yeah,
You wanted to.
yeah, because
Amazing.
because my dad would have a very obvious pushback saying you're just being immature.
Mm.
Don't chicken out of this.
Mm.
Stay in there. You will like the anyone would give you that same advice
Mm.
that this is such a beautiful role. You're lucky to have got it. You're one of the two people in your entire college who's got this role.
Hmm.
Don't give it up just because you're getting homesick or you're saying you're not enjoying the job. And you're fascinated by Google and everyone and what they're saying. But at the end of the day, the Google role is half the salary. So, like, why do this so early in your career? And I told my dad the pros and cons, and he very nicely heard me out. But he said, Munaf, I'm sorry, I think you're making a mistake, but you take the decision you want. And then I
Hmm.
told my dad something which convinced him. I told my dad that the last two area sales managers I've met, folks who've been in the FMCG industry, not necessarily
Hmm.
at Wrigley's, but who've stayed
Hmm.
in the same career path, they're either chain smokers or they drink a lot. Because it kind of comes with the terrain of, traveling so much and being on the field and going
Really
out with your team and all of that. And then my dad is like, okay, cool, please move to Google. Uh,
good smoke.
yeah. Now the funny thing is, then I joined Google, all right,
Hmm.
and I'm like, I'm this guy who's taken a pay cut, but I've joined Google and I'm going to change the world, the best company in the world. First week on the job, I'm sending emails to Sundar Pichai and Larry Page about ideas I have on what they can do with Google Maps and whatnot. And it took me a couple of months for reality to set in and realize that, hey, unlike my Wrigley's job, where I was one of four people, I had a direct line to the CEO.
Hmm.
In the Google job, I'm one of 400 people at a very junior role, a beginner level role, which in fact, forget MBA college kids, kids from like college have got into this role. And there's a reason why the salary is half of what I was getting at
Hmm.
Wrigley's.
Hmm. Hmm.
And if that wasn't bad enough, but 3 months in, when my first appraisal happened, like to evaluate, how have I acclimatized to the company and the role, I was told that Munaf, you've done so badly that
Ouch.
yeah, that we are almost tempted to let go of you, to
Hmm.
fire you. And I was like, wow, have I made a mistake?
Huh.
So that's how the Google stint started, okay, in Hyderabad. And this was very much a KPO role. So
I'm
I thought it was something else, but it was actually, I was supporting Googlers in other markets and I was managing their Excel sheets. To put it simply, but I grew. Okay, I learned.
Hmm.
I had a very good manager. He mentored me. Both are two managers, she and he. They both mentored me, and they made me realize as a young professional that, dude, you have to stick it out. You have to be patient. You have
Hmm.
to learn what the core job is. You do well at that, and then you will get all the fun stuff on the periphery.
Hmm.
And that's exactly what happened. 9 months into my Google Hyderabad role, where I was almost fired, I got a very, very, very rare transfer to the Bombay office,
Hmm.
where I became client facing
Okay.
at a very early stage in my career in Google. And then I tried. Then I blew up from there. But 2 years of that, I got bored. Yeah, and that's when I went to Gurgaon to the coalition.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Quite a lot of interesting learnings over here, right? I mean, um, in your first job at Wrigley's, yes, you realize this very soon that you're not enjoying selling gums, and I'm pretty sure the brand Google was more fascinating at that time, and that's the reason all of that PPT started to happen to your father.
Hmm,
But then your Google journey was very interesting. I mean, if it was any other smart person who's like really done a lot and has tried out a lot of entrepreneurial ventures and then has a lot of energy, curiosity, and then doing something which is absolutely not what the person had thought of and created all that PPT for coming into something, and then you but you stayed there. You made your way into it. So I mean, giving up not easy is also a very difficult task, right? And
hmm, hmm,
going away from your core. I mean, your core is that curious guy, right? Who
hmm,
wants to
hmm.
do things, who wants to build things, who wants to experiment, who wants to try things out, right? And you stayed there 9 months. You made it happen to into something which was very rare. That moving from Hyderabad to Bombay,
Hmm.
changing your roles within the same company, brilliant. That's really awesome.
Thank you.
When this thing happened ki chalo theek hai, Saturday Sunday I'm getting a little time, let's build Bohri kitchen. When did
So,
Bohri kitchen came in?
so So I think the Google role, it kept me excited and engaged for a year and a half, the Bombay office role. But after those 18 months, I started having more free time because you become good at your core job. So then you have all of this free time. And I have always, and this is not necessarily a good thing, I have always been somebody who can't stay still mentally. I
Hmm.
need to keep myself engaged. I need to keep working on new ideas. I need to keep trying different things.
Hmm.
And yeah, so that is what pushed me to try different things, and that's how Stick It and Go happened. That's how the Bohri Kitchen happened. And what allowed me to actually take that very, very difficult decision to quit a job at Google to pursue the Bohri Kitchen full time, which is an F&B venture. I have zero background.
Yeah.
It's such a vague idea. This time a presentation would not cut it with my dad and my mom. Honestly, the simple thing that got me to take that decision was a conversation with my super boss at that time.
Hmm.
Okay, so actually the conversation was about, you know what, so his name was Vikas Agnihotri. I was having a conversation with him and I told him that, Vikas, I need a change.
Hmm.
And the change I was asking for was a transfer to another office in another country.
Okay.
So I was like, I want to stay in this company. It's so great. The money is good. Everything is great. The ESOPs are fantastic. Who quits Google? But I think I need a change. I need to go to another country. I need to learn. I need to discover myself
Hmm.
and challenge myself. And he was open to that because I had a decent, like I had a good amount of goodwill in what I did. But when I told him that, if I remember correctly, his response was, "What about the Bohri kitchen?" So I was like, wait, you've heard of the Bohri Kitchen? So he's like, yeah, I randomly read about it in a Jet Airways magazine, in the Jetwings magazine on the Jet Airways flight.
Wow.
This one Jet Airways was around. So I was like, wow, yeah, there was an article in there. Yes. So he's like, yeah, I read about it there. So Munaf, you managed to create something organically, which is on a Jet Airways magazine. I just want you to know that that's not easy to do.
Yeah.
Are you really ready to, like if you go somewhere else, you will end up shutting that down? So I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, what's the big deal? So he's like, no, it's a very big deal. And he kind of said a few things which encouraged me to re-look at the like the importance of going through the journey of the Bohri kitchen and its potential. And then I was like, if like if and also Vikas made me realize something. He said that stop looking at life from a 1 year lens.
Hmm.
Okay, look at life from at least a 5 year lens. And it's
Wow.
difficult to do when you're young. It's difficult
True.
to do when you're in a difficult situation in your life. And the short term is so stressful and challenging because life is actually made in 5 years. Every 5 years, you're doing something different and significant and you're taking leaps, hopefully. Your decisions that you make for the week and the month don't really change anything in the larger scheme of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he made me
True.
realize that for me it might be quitting Google, but actually 5 years later I will look back and I'll be like, okay, so what's the big deal? Like if I want a job again at Google, I will apply again, and
Hmm.
I will speak to the people I know and I'll get that job again
Yeah.
and I will get it again. And then again, will I say that it's such a big deal that I've got into Google again? So the big deal is in my mind. The
Hmm.
bigger deal is the decisions I make for myself to experience something I could never experience again. And that is how I
Hmm.
decided to leave the company and pursue the Bohri kitchen.
Wow. And this time you had your mom as as somebody who was very closely into the kitchen, right? I mean, she was your brand as well.
Yeah.
Uh, how did that happen? Working with parents, how does that entrepreneurship work out? Your
So
thought process on this. How did you have to convince her because she had never done that before? You opened her house for everyone. How did you convince her, and how did this whole thought happen कि ये idea चल जाएगा, and you made it work?
so the answer to this question has evolved over the years.
Okay.
Uh, yeah. So in the first 5 years of the Bohri kitchen, when a reporter would ask me this question, I would say that I was sitting one day on a weekend off and I was watching TV. I was watching Simpsons, I actually remember. and my mom came and changed the channel to watch one of those Saas Bahu shows. Right, this is before OTT, and I got into a small argument with my mother that, like, let me watch, this is my time off from work, and do you have nothing better to do? And that argument led to this idea that, what if we work together? Let's work on your strengths, which is you're a phenomenal cook, and we belong to a community which no one really has access to in terms of the food, and let's bring it all together, and we
Yeah.
will build the Bohri kitchen. So that used to be my answer. And it's been published in all kinds of newspapers, and it's come on television and so on and so forth. But now I have 10 years behind me from when the Bohri kitchen started, and also at least 3 years of therapy and panic
Really?
attacks. And
Really?
so,
Let's
yes.
talk about that as well.
No, no,
Okay.
please go for it. Go for it. Yeah. So basically, a lot of introspection.
Hmm.
And the fact is that I did not build the Bohri kitchen for my mom.
Hmm.
My mom and my dad built the Bohri kitchen for me. All right. Yes. So the Bohri kitchen was very much, it started off as a byproduct of misplaced male chauvinism on my part. Okay, where I thought I am this Googler who's going to help his mom be productive and realize
Hmm.
her purpose. But the fact is, my mom never wanted to cook for people. She never wanted to start a business. She was very happy, leading this stage in her life, chilling at home,
Yeah.
praying and
She's
watching
in a
TV. That
comfort zone.
she's in
She's
a
done
comfort
that.
zone.
Yeah.
I mean, for crying out loud, she's raised 4 kids. That
Hmm.
was her, like that. That's enough. So, but why did they still do it? Why did they do it with a smile on their face? Why did they enjoy doing it? Because they saw a smile on my face when they did it. They saw what it was doing for me and me professionally and personally, how I was growing because of the Bohri kitchen. And they put themselves through tremendous amounts of discomfort, inviting strangers into the house, cooking for them,
Hmm.
without any financial benefit to them
Hmm.
or any other real benefit. And that is the real answer to the origin story of the Bohri kitchen.
Wow. So it's so, and that shows your growing story, Munaf. How, I mean, I have read your articles earlier, and I do see that what you are saying right now shows that you have started to see from your parents' perspective, right? Why did they enter into it? What made them do it for you? They did it for your success. They did it for making you, an entrepreneur, right? And they all joined with you. And this is what parents do. So, guys, do not fear away. Please take help from your parents. Parents are always there, but make sure that you are doing wonders. You give your 120% as Munaf did. So Manaf, Bohri Kitchen, what a success. I have seen Bohri Kitchen advertisement, not just ads, actually, a lot of articles on page three. I remember long time back when we used
Hmm.
to still read newspapers in physical, right? I used to see a lot of page three, Farah Khan, and all of those celebrities coming to your Bohri kitchen, talking a lot about it. What a beautiful story! Um, so, from Bohri kitchen, what this industry is a very interesting industry. Food and education and medical field in any country will always bloom. Um, you chose the food industry, and how do you see this industry growing in the current India? Because you now know the Gen Zs are in the workplace. They are in their first job, second jobs. They're earning pretty well, doing quite good.
Yeah.
They have different habits. India is changing because of Gen Zs. What is your take on the food industry that you're in? How does the future of this industry look like?
So, very good question. All right. So, yeah. So the Bohri kitchen was my first flavor of food. We eventually raised funding. We set up 5 cloud kitchens. We made a pan-India supply chain to make my mother's very traditional recipe shelf life stable and produce it at scale. We took it to 200 orders per day at its peak. And in doing all of that, I learned a lot about food and the dirty side of food. When I say dirty, I mean the boring side. the
Points.
accounts, the unit economics, the
That's
production.
that's dirty side of all businesses. Entrepreneurship comes with that package.
Yeah. So, but I learned all of that. I was forced to learn all of that, and luckily I did. And eventually, I joined McDonald's somewhere in 2020, where I led their delivery business.
Hmm.
I joined as head of e-commerce. Maybe I was the first head of e-commerce for a leading restaurant chain in the
Hmm.
country, if not the world.
Hmm.
Um, and after McDonald's, I said, you know what? And I tripled the business at McDonald's. So while I was there, me and the team that worked on food delivery, we
Hmm.
took it from roughly 20 crores a month to 60, 70 crores a month. Uh,
Super.
yeah. So everything I'd learned at Google, I'd learned at the Bohri kitchen when applied to McDonald's with its muscle led to beautiful results. And being the ambitious, fidgety guy that I am, I said, now I want to do this at the ecosystem level.
Hmm.
So I reached out to the founders, the leadership at Swiggy and Zomato. Deepinder gave me a phenomenal opportunity, and I joined Zomato as VP growth, and I led multiple initiatives out there. And I concluded that to do what I really want to do, which is I have this vision that food delivery is actually not a food business. It's actually not a restaurant business. It's more a e-commerce business. But since this is traditionally a brick and mortar restaurant business, it's very difficult for restaurateurs to see it that way.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
you need somebody to come in and scream their lungs out and stop calling it food delivery and call it food e-commerce
Hmm.
and talk about growth, talk about strategy, talk about KPIs, talk
Hmm.
about the playbook from an e-commerce point of view. And it's
Right.
just something I find very exciting. So I decided, so when my wife and I, we decided to move back to Bombay from Gurgaon,
Hmm.
uh, I said, instead of getting a job again, let me give this a shot. Let me
Hmm.
create my second or my third, fourth, whatever venture you want to call it. M2O consulting, that's what I call it. M2O stands for menu to order, which is the conversion rate metric on Zomato, Swiggy, and any other food delivery channel. And at M2O Consulting, we intentionally only work with a very small set of clients, but
Okay.
we work very, very deeply and strategically. So our vision is to work with key stakeholders who are critical to this ecosystem and to help them go from zero to one. So we are working with one of the largest ice cream brands, and we are helping them become a food e-commerce first brand. Like a year from now, with working with us, they should be as adept at e-commerce as
Absolutely
Nika is today. You
true.
know, uh, uh, I'll just end
True.
this by saying that today, if I asked you to list down, or if we just asked ChatGPT or Google to list down the top 100 brands in this country by digital sales, by
Hmm.
e-commerce revenue, don't be surprised if at least 20 or 30 of these brands are actually restaurants.
Correct. You're right. You're
Okay,
right.
so we just don't think of it as e-commerce. So,
Hmm.
so my vision out here is to basically help this industry transition from food delivery to food e-commerce and
Hmm.
everything that actually means. Be a part of that
Wonderful. It's
journey.
a different perspective that you are giving, and I'm pretty sure there are. And uh, since you are a visionary in this area, you think a lot in depth, and given your experiences as well, pretty sure there are so many restaurant chains who would love to make themselves as a e-com brand. I mean, look at Haldiram's, what they have done.
Yeah.
Right? Wonderful brand that they have crafted because of the entire marketing which they have done. Right.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful. So a lot of good luck to you and
Thank you.
your wife for M2O. Would love to speak about your book as well. And I remember seeing you on the show on the Fox TV. What was that all about?
Yeah. Uh, Also to clarify, my wife is so obviously she's part of everything and she helps me with everything, and I can't do anything without her support. But she's not formally a part of M2O Consulting.
Okay.
Yeah, she's pursuing her own very exciting career journey. Now, the book and Fox Life. So somehow, I think somewhere my curiosity took me to a reality TV show called Grilled. which was basically MasterChef Australia meets Shark Tank. Um,
Okay.
Very, very exciting. Again, met some amazing food entrepreneurs, met some amazing judges, Riaz Amlani, Vishal Dadlani, Sarah Todd. And somehow, miraculously, I won that show. But again, I think
I
I give
saw
credit.
that show.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
saw that show.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, and that's how I kind of I got to know Riaz better, and he even came on board as an investor at the Bohri Kitchen. Um, the book was something I always wanted to do. Okay, so we have a book for those who don't know called How I Quit Google to Sell Samosas that has been published by HarperCollins. And I don't know. I think there's a decent chance it will even become a film someday. Uh, and the book was ultimately a byproduct of something I've always wanted to do, which is narrate the story of the Bohri kitchen and of my life
Hmm.
in another medium that is
Hmm.
meant for storytelling. So the Bohri
Hmm.
kitchen, I keep telling people, is less an F&B brand and more a FB brand, which is it was basically built on Facebook. It was built on storytelling on social media. The Bohri kitchen is actually a story that I narrated on social media, and that's how the business was built. Um, so the book was an attempt at converting that story, into a physical book and layering it with my very terrible jokes, uh, and seeing how people respond to it, and came out really well. And again, most of the credit goes to Zahabia, who co-authored it with me, and structured it, and brought in like great just writing skills. And yeah, the book's done really well, touch wood.
Hmm.
And like I said, we are in talks with a few production houses to see
To make
if
that
there is
into a
a
movie.
way, yeah, if there's a way to convert it into a screen adaptation.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Would wait for seeing that. And this is all part of your marketing. See, because you're coming with your M2O, right? Marketing is what story is all about, right? And you're helping many brands do this very well through your startup as well now with M2O. If you were supposed to speak about marketing, what would be the three things that you would shout out loud, saying that if there is a company which is planning to make themselves into a e-com, a restaurant which is planning to get into this e-com business, what will be the three things that they should be focusing on from Munaf Kapadia's side?
Wow. All right. So instead of three things, let me talk about one thing,
Okay,
and let me get into the details of that.
got it.
Um, okay, let me talk about two things. So,
Okay.
um, so, so so first of all, there's a there's almost like a theoretical answer out here, which is stop looking at it as an extension of your restaurant business and it is just happening through Swiggy and Zomato. Stop looking at marketplaces like Swiggy, Zomato as channels through which you get orders. These are not order channels. These are not order acquisition channels. These are customer acquisition channels.
Mm,
Okay, so when you get an order through Swiggy and Zomato, and if that order has come for the first time from a customer, that means you've acquired a customer for the first time.
yeah.
And after that, the rest of the journey, after that, the rest of your strategy after that is about retaining that customer. So stop looking at marketplaces as bonus, as cream, as something that is good to have, that's just happening on the side, and you don't have control over. You just get the business, you get the invoice, you make a certain amount of money from the shared real estate that you have in your kitchen if you have a dine-in restaurant. Instead, look at it as a completely separate business unit with a separate P&L. Track how many of those orders are unique customers and what can you do to acquire customers separately and set aside budget for that, and what can you do to retain customers separately and set aside a budget for that. So it's a very sophisticated, beautiful business. If you treat it with respect, you will see phenomenal returns that will compete with your dine-in business. Um, So the first part of my answer is there is a FECOM playbook. It's a theoretical playbook on how you can approach your business on Swiggy and Zomato, and basically approach it like you would approach an e-commerce business and not like cream on top of your existing dine-in business. That's part one. Part two is I'm going to share a theory I have towards branding, okay, which I think is very relevant to delivery brands.
Hmm.
So one challenge with the food delivery ecosystem is it's very easy to get lost on marketplaces.
Hmm.
You might have a brand you like which is decades old, and then there's another brand that got launched last week.
Hmm.
It will look the same
Yeah.
on that phone screen.
Right.
Um, so I have this theory which is I call it three-dimensional branding versus four-dimensional branding.
Okay.
All right. And you can test this theory out on Google Images. So Google Images is a tool you can use to test if your brand is three-dimensional or four-dimensional. And basically what I'm saying is if you have a 4D brand, you're more likely to succeed on a marketplace.
And how do you
Uh,
define 4D?
Thank you for that question. All right. So basically put your brand on Google Images. Okay. Literally put your brand, put any of the leading, biryani cloud kitchen players on Google Images and see what you see. What are the photographs you see? And
Hmm.
I'm saying Google Images, not Google search, on Google image
Okay.
search. All right.
Okay.
See the images you see. So you will see great logos, which is fantastic. Okay.
Hmm.
Beautiful, professionally done logos with great colors.
Right.
Um, you will see great food photographs.
True.
You will see great packaging. You might even be able to smell the food through all of that. So this is three-dimensional branding. It means that
Okay.
you've checked all the conventional boxes of high quality branding and
Got it.
positioning. Four-dimensional branding is when you see a story in those images. Okay, when you see real life milestones, when you see
Hmm.
people, when
Hmm.
you see emotions, when you see the founders and you see
Hmm.
what they've gone through and what they've experienced.
Hmm.
And my hypothesis is that the difference between a 3D brand and a 4D brand is a 4D brand is more sticky. So if you spend the same amount of money, you have to create awareness. So if you spend the same amount of money creating awareness, let's say you buy a hoarding
Hmm.
on a Mumbai Pune highway for some reason.
Hmm.
Okay, so you buy a hoarding and you put the first brand, which is one of the leading cloud kitchen players on it,
Hmm.
and then you put the second brand on it. I
Hmm.
am betting that if you did a survey of the people who passed that hoarding, the second brand will lead to greater trauma and sponta, greater
You're
top
right.
of mind awareness and spontaneous awareness, and it will stick.
Mhm.
People will remember that brand. When they open Zomato and Swiggy, they will be like, hey, I remember this brand, I feel for it,
Yeah.
versus the first brand. So 4D branding is very important in food delivery because unlike your restaurant where people walk into the place and eat out there and get to develop the fourth dimension,
Is it
in
something similar?
delivery
Say,
you
for
have to build it.
example, when I'm looking at masalas, right? When you look at MDH, you can clearly see the
Uncle,
person the uncle who's
yeah.
there, right?
Mm.
But if you look at others, it's just like a normal masala picture or maybe like a beautiful food picture. But the story
Yes,
happens with MDH because you can actually see that experience. You can see the person's passion in building a company. You see a story attached to it. Is this 4D what you're talking about?
that's absolutely it.
Okay.
And the beautiful thing about food, about the restaurant industry, is the story is out there.
Mm.
It's always
Mm.
there. There's always this beautiful founder behind that brand who's gone
Yeah.
through ups and downs to build that business because it's such a hard business,
Yeah. Right.
and
Highly
more often
competitive.
than not,
Mm.
it was born out of passion.
True.
So there's always an exciting story to tell. People just decide not to tell it. They they
Correct.
they underestimate the power of that story. So yeah, I
And with
encourage people to
M2O,
do that.
you building that. With M2O, are you doing that 4D branding, that
So
4D storytelling?
I'll actually turn it around. I will say M2O Consulting is a byproduct of that 4D brand, which is Munaf Kapadia. So M2O
Mm.
Consulting is basically an extension of my personal brand, what I have built for myself in this industry. I'm the Googler who got into food delivery. So I'm leveraging all of that goodwill. I'm leveraging that little bit of, credibility I have in the industry and converting it into my next passion project, which will hopefully be a very successful business. So, so M2O Consulting is born out of that. It's an offshoot of
Super.
already having a 4D brand.
Super. Wonderful. 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 Now let's talk about, since we spoke a lot about how competitive this business is, the food industry, and especially food e-commerce, because you are discoverable everywhere, right? And if you are doing this, which means there are 10,000 other guys who are doing the same, right? Or trying to do the same. So how does pricing play a role? Because whether it is India or any other country, right, I would say pricing is an important factor that people shop for, because in the
Hmm.
end you're shopping for biryani or you're shopping for a lipstick, right? But you are going to different marketplaces or different websites, and in the end you're shopping for a price. How do you think pricing becomes important in this world where people want to be delighted with great quality, at the same time are sensitive in their pricing?
So great question. I would actually go out on a limb out here and say pricing is the single most important lever in food delivery, which has to be optimized through different strategies. So it's not as simple as increasing the price, reducing the price. It's a lot more complicated than that. But why do I say it's the most important thing? Because food delivery, the TAM, the 40 lakh orders per day that happen on Swiggy, Zomato, and other channels every single day in this country,
Hmm.
um, most of these orders are being placed by value-seeking customers.
Hmm.
Okay, the single biggest lever that these platforms have and restaurants have to drive incremental business is discounts.
Yeah.
While we hate discounts and the industry hates discounts, and even platforms don't like funding discounts, the fact is, if you give a discount, your business goes up.
Hmm.
The players who have a lower price product, who are QSRs, who are, producing food at a lower ticket size, those are the players who are doing the maximum amount of volume out here on these platforms.
Correct.
And the market is underpenetrated. If you compare us to China, we are like 10x the size, we are one-tenth the size of China.
Correct.
So the opportunity is in making the food more affordable, more practical, easier to access, so on and so forth. So it's very much a value-seeking play.
Hmm.
But how do you provide this value without bleeding, right? Without making a loss. And that's where you need to be smart.
Hmm.
So it's a much longer answer. I'll give one example of this answer. Um, so in the FreeCom playbook, okay, my proprietary playbook at M2O Consulting that we use to consult our restaurant clients and help them grow sustainably, so within discounts, we have two types of discounts. Okay, we have inorganic discounts and organic discounts. Inorganic discounts is the discount you're giving, which is funded from your marketing budget. It's a temporary discount. It's a
Hmm.
temporary budget. You don't always have a high marketing budget. There will be quarters when you have less money in the marketing budget. So when you have money, when you want incremental business, you fund that discount. An organic discount comes from your food cost. It
Okay.
doesn't come from your marketing budget. It's almost like a permanent discount. An example of an organic discount is a burger brand, any
Hmm.
QSR player.
Hmm.
They will have a target gross margin or a net margin. Okay, let's say they have a target gross margin. They want to make 70% on every SKU.
Hmm. Hmm.
So they will be like, my food cost can maximum be 30%.
True.
That's their goal for them to hit their net margin,
True.
whatever the goals are, objectives are. Now, different SKUs have different margins, gross margins.
Hmm.
Okay, a burger might have a gross margin of 65%. So
Hmm.
they have very little room to discount the burger any further out
Hmm.
of the food cost. But a Coke beverage, a fountain beverage especially, has
Hmm.
very high gross margins. All
Right.
right. So hence you will always see a combo which will
Got
have
it.
a organic discount. So
Right.
a combo where you're effectively giving the burger which was for 100 rupees, the Coke which is for 100 rupees, which is 200 rupees at 150 rupees. You're
Hmm.
giving a 50 divided by 200, a 25% discount. That's actually still allowing the restaurant to hit their 70% gross margin.
You're right.
Okay, behind the scenes.
Hmm.
But is this an organic discount or an inorganic discount? It's an organic discount because this is being funded from the food cost simply by bundling these products together. And hence, combos are omnipresent. They're always there.
True. True.
Now, what restaurants don't realize is the difference between the two. And what they don't realize is the customer doesn't need to know the difference between the two. For a customer, it's a discount. They're
True.
saving money. So
True.
I find it very interesting and a huge opportunity when I see a restaurant listing on Swiggy Zomato,
Mm.
which does not call out the discount on a combo.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Ideally, the price should be slashed
Yeah.
and it should say that, 30% off out here,
Yeah. Yeah.
25% off out here. So
Absolutely.
there are many such interesting approaches towards giving value to a customer, protecting your margins, and still driving incremental business.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Absolutely. So that's a lot of intelligence, Munaf, and a lot of thoughts which have gone behind, and it's coming out of your experience. Surprising is absolutely a very, very critical lever for growth in any business, because in the end, you are sustainable if you have good margins to cover, right? So great. It's amazingly good. And Munaf, with that, um, what an amazing show, what insights that you have had in your own career, and thank you for sharing that with everybody. And I'm pretty sure there are a lot of takeaways for different genres of people to learn from you and understand how your journey has been, and take away and actually directly implement in their own businesses as well. Great, thanks a
Thank you
lot
so
for
much.
your time.
Thank you, Vijeta.
Wow, what an episode with Munaf Kapadia. What an amazing speaker. He really thinks his mind, such a curious soul. And what an experience that he has had in the restaurant business. So I'm pretty sure there is a lot that you have taken away from his experiences, his journey from Google to selling samosas to now his consulting business. And during this time, he has also worked with McDonald's. What a beautiful career, and pretty sure you're inspired. I am surely inspired, and I will be looking forward to a lot of posts about the Bohri kitchen. And do not forget to read his book, right? What an amazing book he has on how he went from Google to selling samosas. So the link of the book will be down in the description box. Please make sure that you're going and reading the book and getting inspired by Munaf. And if you have liked this episode, and if you would want to see many other people inspiring stories, the 4D stories of entrepreneurs, of visionaries on the show, please do not hesitate to subscribe, like, and even share your comments. Do write whom would you want to see on the show, and I would love to bring that person over here based on your preferences. Thank you so much. Vijita Soni signing off.